Bitcoin is experiencing a full-blown supply crisis, a supply shock where there are simply not enough new Bitcoin to satisfy the demand. The demand is absolutely parabolic. The understanding of the need for this asset has never been higher. And what we're going to show you today are the clear supply and demand factors that will make it so obvious as to why Bitcoin is going to continue on its parabolic path up to $100,000 and far beyond. If you guys are excited to learn about Bitcoin's supply crisis and what this means for you, the holder and investor, then smash that like button. And remember, as always, each and every comment on this video is entered to win your very own hardware wallet. For the new viewers out there, my name's Elio Trades, and each and every day on this channel, we make content about the most undervalued and important opportunities in the crypto space. And we've called some of the most important movements, changes, and of course, altcoin gems that have grown by 600, 700, 1,000% and more. So if you guys want the absolute best information about this market, then all you have to do is hit that sub button and make sure you put that bell notification on set to all. YouTube has been known to essentially shadow ban crypto content. So if you want to make sure that you're always made aware when I put out new content, then you got to make sure you set that bell notification to all. With that said, let's dive in. Now, as you can see here, the Bitcoin supply squeeze is heating up as Grayscale, which is a publicly traded stock market vehicle where people can get exposure to Bitcoin's price, albeit indirectly. You're buying shares of Grayscale, but Grayscale then buys Bitcoin. So Grayscale's been around for a while. It's kind of like an interesting proxy, but as you can see, they're currently buying 3 times the amount of Bitcoin mined in December. This is up from buying up the entire supply in November to now they're buying up 3x the amount of supply. As you can see in the gold here, we have the amount of Bitcoin that are being bought by Grayscale. Grayscale is just one entity in the entire world, and they're buying 72, almost 73,000 Bitcoin last month, while there was only 28,000 mined. So you see here that of all the new Bitcoin coming into circulation, 3x that amount are being bought by one entity. And there's a phenomenon that we commonly explain as the Bitcoin black hole. Now, the Bitcoin black hole refers to entities and different dynamics where Bitcoin enters into those ecosystems but doesn't come out. Grayscale is a phenomenal example of a Bitcoin black hole, as Bitcoin goes into Grayscale, but they don't sell their Bitcoin. You just potentially have people buying and selling shares of Grayscale. So Grayscale is a Bitcoin black hole. So 3 times the amount of Bitcoin mined every day are going into an ecosystem that they will potentially never come out of. Same with PayPal. All that Bitcoin is going in but not coming out. You also have all the lost Bitcoin, the wallets that are inactive over the years. The reality of Bitcoin is that there are very few coins in circulation that are actively trading. And in a bull market, more and more hodlers emerge and people who do not sell their Bitcoin, who remove it from exchanges. What I'm trying to say here is that the amount of Bitcoin, the supply, is diminishing at an absolutely unparalleled rate, meaning that as we look at increasing demand and interest in Bitcoin, as measured here by Google Trends in this particular instance, what we see here is that the Google Trends is on the up and to the right for the first time in a sustainable way since 2017. You see this parabolic growth here that happened at the end of 2017, which was the peak of the last cycle. Mind you, we are $10,000 above the Bitcoin price at this prior high, and we're only at, 1/5 of the amount of Google searches. To give you a sense here of how early this bull run is, how early the actual demand curve is, we're seeing an absolute supply shock here when the world hasn't even realized what's going on yet. And we literally have the mayor of Miami responding to a Pomp tweet saying that he's open to exploring putting 1% of the city's treasury reserves into Bitcoin. This is absolutely historic to have an actual municipality putting their money into Bitcoin. This is a trend, a shift in society and how we understand wealth, how we understand exposure to inflation. That is a 0 to 1 moment that will not be repeated. And for that reason, combined with a supply shock where there simply are not new Bitcoins available, how is Miami going to put 1% of their money in if there's no Bitcoin available? They need to keep bidding the price higher and higher and higher. We also have Anthony Scaramucci, the director of Skybridge Hedge Fund, who's launching a Bitcoin fund. Listen to what he had to say about what he sees as the demand for Bitcoin right now and what we can look forward to.
You either have to accept that Bitcoin is a store of value or not. There are still skeptics out there, and that's why I think we're in the first inning. But after doing the research that we've done, we believe it is. And given the monetary supply and the global central banking coordination right now, this will be a very strong asset class over the next decade.
And you don't feel, I mean, I know you said you wish you would have done it 4 months earlier. You don't feel like this is a little late, right? I mean, you know, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's watching this and says, okay, you know, now that Skybridge is launching this or anybody launching it now, maybe that's the top, that it's a little late after it's rallied as far as it's come.
Or we could be at the precursor of an avalanche of institutional investors heading in, not wanting to put it on their balance sheets in 2020, but orders indicating and orders building up from a large swath of institutions for the first quarter of 2021. I think that's the more likely scenario. And if you look at Bitcoin over the last decade, Scott, you could put a 1 penny in Bitcoin, 99 cents in cash. It would have beaten every other asset class. So for us, I don't think it's late. If anything, it's the first inning. You're about to see that wave of early adoption by the institutional community. I'd like to get our investors involved before that.
There you go. You heard him. An avalanche of investors are coming to Bitcoin. An avalanche. This is, we heard, MassMutual, MicroStrategy, Square, and these people are on the forefront right now. What happens when it's literally considered economically irresponsible not to have 1% or more of your assets in Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation? And this as we just had another $900 billion in new money printing stimulus. That's where the money's coming from. It's just printed new money. And just look at this chart showing the new money that's been printed in 2020 alone. It is absolutely staggering, the amount of printing that has occurred in the last several months. Over 25% of the entire US dollar supply in existence has been printed in 2020. And that is a situation that is rapidly spiraling out of control. And in the minds of many investors and many asset managers, you know, the people who handle trillions of dollars, they are going to see Bitcoin as the logical, predictable, code-driven, uncorruptible way to protect your money from inflation and from a spiraling economic policy that is rapidly starting to depart from reality. So now you understand the absolute supply shock that's happening with Bitcoin, the supply crisis. There simply is no new Bitcoin to satisfy the demand, especially as trillions and trillions of dollars start to look for a home as a hedge against the absolute destruction of wealth that occurs through inflation, which is rapidly picking up its pace. It's not going to be the same as it was over the last few years. It's going to increase by orders of magnitude. In fact, we saw some studies that inflation is being measured completely wrong, as the value of real goods like houses, like education, like the things that really make for a high quality life are spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, sure, there's milk subsidies and Netflix is cheap and all these sort of consumer goods that we're using to judge the actual inflation rate are sort of maintaining a base level standard. Well, Netflix is based upon, publicly traded stock values, and so they can tend to give subscriptions at undervalued what it really costs. Same with the way Amazon has underpriced Prime for many years. This is a kind of big tech money game that's different than actual real value of goods and services. There's also subsidies for milk and farmers that come through the government. They keep prices of those base level food items low. But what we really need are houses. What we really need are education. And those goods are spiraling out of control at an absolutely unprecedented rate. That is the real inflation. Understanding that Bitcoin is the world's best opportunity to hedge against these things is your key to understanding why Bitcoin is going to spiral upwards and onwards in value to $100,000 and beyond. Over time, it reaching $1 million in the next decade, it reaching $10 million at some point after that. Those things would not only not be surprising, but they would be utterly necessary to accommodate the world's wealth that will rapidly need to enter an old system that's highly corruptible, highly unpredictable, and has been proven to do one thing to your money over time, which is diminish it, into a new system that has over the first 10 years of its existence proven to be the highest performing and most indestructibly strong asset class in the history of humanity. If you guys were excited to learn about Bitcoin's supply crisis, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. Of course, if you guys are new to cryptocurrency and looking to get the absolute best information in the market, especially as it pertains to those new and exciting altcoins, which can be really confusing to understand how to separate the quality ones from the noise, then all you need to do is subscribe and put that bell notification on so you're made aware aware whenever we put out new content. We'll be covering the absolute best gems in the entire industry, and those truly have transformative potential for you and your portfolio. So you're definitely going to want to subscribe and put that bell on to make sure that you're notified and that YouTube doesn't decide to not show you this crypto content, which is in many ways, as you can see, a threat to the existing monetary powers that be. With that said, my name's Elio Trades. I thank you so much for watching. If you want to follow me on Telegram or Twitter, the links for both of those are in the description. I'm wishing you a happy and healthy New Year's. I know that my New Year's resolution is to make the best content I've ever made, and of course, to see the biggest growth of my portfolio and the portfolios of my community that I've ever seen in this year. Let me know what your guys' New Year's resolutions are. Remember, each and every comment is entered to win your very own hardware wallet, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.